Hello friends, my name is Sourav Ganguly and today I am going to discuss about loop control of C language. Please visit my YouTube channel and subscribe for other tutorials. Throughout this tutorial, we will discuss about for loop, different type of for loops, and see a real life example of for loop. Then we discuss about while loop, different type of while loops, and see an example of while loop. Then we discuss do while loop, different type of do while loop, and then see an example of do while loop. Now first question arises that why we use loop? If we want to perform one particular task for several times, then we use the loop in C language. This is the syntax of for loop. Each and every loop has three sections. Section 1, that is initialization. Section 2, that is condition. And section 3 is increment or decrement. This for is actually a keyword which tells the compiler that it is a for loop. This open second bracket and close second bracket is indicating the scope of this for loop. Now when we want to execute this whole for loop, then the cursor first come here, this initialization section. This is point 1. After that, the cursor directly go in the next section, that is condition section. Condition has two options. It may be true, may be false. If the condition become true, then the cursor come here. It perform this task and directly go in the third section, that is increment or decrement section. After that, the cursor come again into this condition section. If the condition become true again, then the cursor directly come into the scope again. If the condition become false, then the cursor will directly come here, the next line of this closing second bracket. Now, this first section and second section separated by a semicolon. Second section and third section separate by a semicolon. You have to put this semicolon very minutely. Now consider this example. This is a variable x of the type integer. Now we initialize 0 in x, then we check the condition, that is x less than 3. That means 0 less than 3. If this condition become true, then the cursor come here. It will print the value of x and then throw the cursor into the next line. This /n means next line. After that, the cursor will directly come here, the third section. The value of x will increase by 1. Now the new value of x is 1. Now the cursor come here, this condition section again, and check 1 less than 3. If this condition true, then the cursor will directly come here again and perform this whole task again, and it return to the third section and increase the value of x by 1 again. When this condition become false, that means when the value of x become 3, then the cursor will directly come here and print loop end. This is the output of this program. Now go to the next section. This is called nested for loop of C language. It looks like very complicated, but believe me, it is not so complicated at all. Now let's start to understand. We already discussed the syntax of for loop. That means the keyword for, initialization, condition, increment, decrement, and the body of this for loop is present here. Under this first for loop, we put another for loop here. The syntax remains same for initialization, condition, increment, decrement, and scope or body of this for loop and the task here. Now cursor at first come here, point 1, it initialize the value, then the cursor come here in this condition section. If this condition become true, then the cursor will directly come in the body of this first for loop and come here in the initialization section of the next for loop. Then cursor check the condition and come here and perform this task. After that, the cursor will directly go the increment decrement section of the second for loop. After that, the cursor come here and check the condition again. If the condition is true, then the cursor will come here again and perform this task. If this condition becomes false, then the cursor will directly come here, the ending section of the second for loop. After that, the cursor will come here and directly go to the third section of first for loop. After this, the cursor directly come in the condition section. If this condition become true, then this cursor will come here again and start point from point 4 again. Remember one thing, that when we take entry into any for loop, then this initialization section execute. In this total example, though we are taking entry into the next for loop again and again, so the point 4 will execute again and again. But the point 1, that means the first initialization section, will execute only once, because we always stay in this for loop. When this condition becomes false, then the cursor will directly come here, the ending section of the first for loop. Now come and discuss the example of the nested for loop. Loop 1 and loop 2 is two variables. Now we initialize 0 in loop 1, then we check the condition 0 less than 3, this condition is true, so the cursor will directly come here. Initialize 0 into loop 2 less than 3, this condition true, and it will print the value of loop 2. Then it increase the value of loop 2 by 1 and check this condition again, and come here and print the value of loop 2 again. When this condition becomes false, then the cursor will come here, it will print this whole section, that means loop 2 end. After that, the cursor will directly go in this section and increase the value of loop 1 by 1 and check the condition that loop 1 less than 3. Yes, new value of loop 1 is 1, so 1 less than 3, this condition becomes true, and the cursor will directly come here again. It will initialize loop 2 with 0 again, but loop 1 will not be initialized again because we stay in this for loop. After that, when this condition becomes false, then the cursor will come here and execute this whole section, and again the cursor will go here directly. Now the loop 1 value will increase by 1 and the next value is 2, 2 less than 3, the condition is true, and this section will execute again. If the value is 3, then 3 less than 3, this condition becomes false, and the cursor will directly come here and print that loop 1 end. Now let's check an example. Okay, this is our example. Now compile this, run this. Now see this, that at first we declare loop 1 and loop 2 variable of the type integer, then initialize 0 in loop 1, then we are checking the condition loop 1 less than 3, this condition is true, so the cursor come here, print a /n loop 1. What is the meaning of /n? /n means that the cursor will directly throw into the next line. Now we got the output loop 1, then the cursor will come here, loop 2 0, 0 less than 3, this condition become true, and it will print loop 2. Yes, we got loop 2. Then this variable will increase by 1 and the cursor will come here again, check the condition, that is 1 less than 3, condition true, it will print loop 2 again. Yes, loop 2 again. Then the cursor will come here again and increase the value by 1. Now the next value is 2. Okay, 2 less than 3, this condition is true, so we'll get loop 2. Yes, we get loop 2 here. Now the cursor will come here, it is 3, 3 less than 3, this condition is false, so cursor directly come here, loop 2 end. See, loop 2 end. Now this is the closing second bracket of this first for loop, so the cursor will directly come here. It will increase the value of loop 1 by 1, so the new value of loop 1 is 1, 1 less than 3, this condition is true, so the cursor will directly come here again and print loop 1. This is loop 1 and the cursor will come here again. Now see one thing, that we are taking entry into the next for loop again and again, so we are initializing the value 0 into loop 2 again and again. Here we initialize 0 into loop 2 again, the new value of loop 2 is 0. Now the cursor come here, 0 less than 3, condition true, that it will print loop 2 here. That means when this for loop will execute, you will get 3 loop 2. Yes, you get 3 loop 2, and after that, when this condition becomes false, the cursor will directly come here, loop 2 end, you get loop 2 end, and This is the closing second bracket of the first for loop. So the cursor will directly go here and increase the value of loop 1 by 1. Now the next value is 2, 2 less than 3. That means the condition is true and this section will execute next time. For this reason, you get this output. After that, when the loop 1 value becomes 3, then 3 less than 3, this condition becomes false and the cursor will directly come here and it will print loop 1 end. Loop 1 end. That means we are directly throw away from this first for loop. Now take another example. Okay, now check this. Here at first the cursor directly come here, loop 1 initialize with 0, 0 less than 3, this condition becomes true, the cursor print loop 1, this is loop 1. Then the cursor will come here, loop 2 initialize with 0, 0 less than 3, condition true, the cursor will print loop 2, you got loop 2. Then the cursor will come here and initialize loop 3 with 0, 0 less than 3, condition true, the cursor will directly come here and print loop 3. Loop 3. Now the cursor will come here. It will increase the value of loop 3 by 1, check the condition and print it. By this method, you will get loop 3 3 times simultaneously. Yes, you get loop 3 and loop 3. When this condition becomes false, then the cursor will come here. And it will directly go to this loop 2 increment section. It will increase the value of loop 2 by 1. The new value of loop 2 is 1, 1 less than 3. This condition is true and the cursor will come here again. That means you will get loop 2, and then you will get 3 loop 3 times. That means this loop will execute 3 times for the 1 increment of this loop, and this whole thing will execute for 1 increment of this loop. That means after loop 3, the cursor will directly go here and increase the value of loop 2 again. It will come here and check the condition. If the condition becomes true, then the cursor will come here and execute this section. If this condition becomes false, then the cursor will directly come here and print loop 2 end. Loop 2 end, and then the cursor will directly go in this section, that is loop 1 is equal to loop 1 plus 1. That means the value of loop 1 will increase by 1, and then cursor will check that 1 less than 3. Condition is true, so the cursor will directly come here and print loop 1, this loop 1. Then the cursor will come here and initialize loop 2 with the value 0. Then check the condition is true, so the cursor will come here and print loop 2, and then the cursor will come here and execute this section 3 times. So you will get 3 loop 3. Yes, 3 loop 3. Then the cursor will come here, increase the value, check the condition and print loop 2 again, loop 2, and then another loop 3 and loop 3. After that, when this condition becomes false, the cursor will come here, check the condition. If this condition becomes false, then the cursor will come here, print this loop 2 end, and directly go here and increase the value of loop 1 and check the condition. If this condition becomes false, then the cursor will directly come here and print loop 1 end. That means you get loop 1 end at the last of the program. Now check one thing, that this open bracket and closing second bracket is directly associated with the first for loop. This open and closing second bracket is associated with the second for loop, and this open and closing bracket is directly associated with the third for loop. Now check another important thing is that this third for loop is dependent for loop on the second for loop. That means this for loop is actually situated under the second bracket of the second for loop, and this whole thing is situated under the second brackets of the first for loop. Third for loop is directly dependent on the second, and second is directly dependent on the first for loop. Now check this example. Here, take this. The first for loop contains two for loops. Second for loop and third for loop is dependent on the first for loop. But third for loop is not dependent on the second for loop, or second for loop is not dependent on the third for loop. Why? Because this is the opening and closing second bracket of the first for loop. And under this section is situated, and this section is situated, but the third for loop is not situated under the second for loop, or the second for loop is not situated under third for loop. That means these two for loop are independent, but both are dependent on this first for loop. Now run this program. So take this. The cursor first come here, initialize the value, check the condition and print loop 1. Then the cursor will come here, initialize the value into loop 2 and execute it for 3 times. Loop 2, loop 2, loop 2. And then the cursor will come here and execute this section for 3 times. Loop 3, loop 3, loop 3. So you see that the output pattern is changed. It is a very important thing to remember. Okay. Now come here. Next, we will discuss the while loop. We previously discussed that each and every loop has 3 sections, that is initialization section, condition section, and increment decrement section. Then what is the difference between for loop and while loop? There is no difference. The only difference is that this section 1 and section 3 change their location or position. Otherwise, everything remains same. This is the initialization section, point 1. The cursor come here at first. Then it will check the condition. If the condition is true, then the cursor will directly come here, perform his task and increase the value of the variable. Then the cursor will directly come here, this condition section. If the condition is true, then this section will execute again. If this condition is false, then the cursor will directly come here. Take this example. X is an integer variable. We initialize 0 in x. Then we checking the condition. If this condition is true, then this portion will execute. X is equal to x plus 1 means we increase the value of x by 1. Then come here, check the condition again and perform this task again and again. When the value of x becomes 3, then the cursor will directly come here and print loop end. This is the output of the program. This is the syntax of the while loop, and while is a keyword which tells the compiler that it is while loop. Now come here. This is another section or another example that you may think that it is very complicated, but believe me, it is not complicated at all. Let me analyze this. This is initialization section of first while loop. The cursor come here, then check the condition. If the condition is true, then the cursor will directly come here, the body of the while loop, and the point 4 will execute. Initialization of the next variable, then the condition will be checked, then the cursor will come here, perform his task, and increase the or decrease the value of the variable. Now check this condition again. If this condition becomes false, then the cursor will directly come here, then it increase or decrease the value of the first variable, and it will directly go here, this condition. If this condition becomes true, then this whole section will execute again. If this condition becomes false, then the cursor will directly come here. You have to remember one thing, that you must use these semicolons after initialization and increment decrement, but no semicolon after condition. Now check this example. 2 variables, we initialize the value into the first variable, check the condition, and then this whole section will execute. Here we initialize the 0 into loop 1, then check the condition here and execute this section, increase the value, check the condition, increase the value, check the condition, and when this condition becomes false, then this section will execute. Increase the value of the first variable, come here, check the condition, and come here again. These whole things will execute next time. When this condition becomes false, then the cursor will directly come here. Now let's check an example. Okay. Run this program. Yes. Now check this. Initialize 0 in loop 1, then check the condition. Condition is true, 0 less than 3, then print loop 1. It is loop 1. Then initialize 0 into loop 2, check the condition, loop 2 less than 3, condition true, print loop 2. Increase the value, check this condition again, and print loop 2 again. This whole section will execute for 3 times, so we get 3 loop 2, loop 2, loop 2, loop 2. And then when this condition becomes false, then the cursor will come here, print loop 2 end, this is loop 2 end, and increase the loop 1 value, then the cursor will directly come here and check the condition. If this condition is true, then the cursor will directly come here and print loop 1 again, loop 1, and the cursor will come here, loop 2, initialize with 0, check the condition and print this loop 2 3 times. Yes, loop 2, loop 2, loop 2, and then this condition becomes false, cursor come here, print loop 2 end, and increase the value of loop 1 and come here, check the condition is true, so the cursor will directly come here again. This whole section will execute. If this condition becomes false, then the cursor will directly come here and print loop 1 end, this loop 1 end. Now check another example. In this example, we put this section, a third while loop, under the second while loop. This section, we put this section under this while loop. That means this third while loop is dependent on the second one, and second one is dependent on the first one. Now run this program. Yes, you got the output. Now analyze it. That is, at first condition is checked, then the cursor will directly print loop 1. Then the cursor will come here, initialize the value, check the condition and print loop 2, this loop 2. Then the cursor will come here, loop 3 0, loop 3 less than 3, that means condition is true, and it will print loop 3 3 times. See, 3 times. When this condition becomes false, then the cursor will directly come here, this section, and cursor will directly go here and check the condition. So you will get another loop 2 again. Yes, loop 2, then 3 times loop 3, then 3 times loop 3. When this condition becomes false, then the cursor will directly come here and it will print loop 2 end, this loop 2 end, and it will increase loop 1 value and come here and check the condition. That means these whole things will execute for 3 times, and after that, when this condition becomes false, then the cursor will directly come here and print loop 1 end. At the last, you will get loop 1 end. Now check this another example. Okay, the pattern will change because this third while loop and this second while loop is independent, but both are dependent on the first while loop because both loops are situated under this open and closing second brackets. Now if we run this program, then the pattern is changed. At first we get the cursor will come here, check the condition, you will get loop 1. Then the cursor will come here and this loop will execute and you will get 3 loop 2. Yes, 3 times you get loop 2. Then the cursor will come here and you will get 3 times loop 3. 3 times loop 3. Then the increment section will execute and the cursor will directly come here and check the condition and you will get loop 1 again. This loop 1. That means the output pattern will change. You have to remember these things very carefully and you have to notice this thing very carefully, because when we discuss the pattern printing, then we require this thing. Now, this is another type of loop, that is do while loop. It is the syntax of the do while loop. What is the difference between for while and do while? The difference of the for loop with the do while loop is that the for check the condition at first and then execute the body. In the same case happened for the while loop, while check the condition and execute its body. But in the case of do while loop, it at first execute its body and then check the condition. It also has its 3 sections. Section 1 initialization, section 2 that is condition, and section 3 that is increment and decrement. You have to remember one thing very carefully, that you must put a semicolon after this condition, after this closing first bracket. In the for and while we do not use this semicolon, but in the case of do while we must use this semicolon. Now the cursor at first come into point 1 initialization section, then the cursor will directly come in the do section and perform its task and increase the value of the variable by 1 or 2 or maybe 3. Then the cursor will come here, check the condition. If the condition is true, then the cursor will directly come this do section again. If this condition becomes false, then the cursor will directly come here, the end point of this do while loop. This do and this while, these both are the keywords which tell the compiler that it is a do while loop. Now take this example. We initialize x with 0, then print the value of x and increase the value of x. Then the cursor will check the condition. If this condition becomes true, then the cursor will directly come here, this do section, and this section will execute again. When this condition becomes false, then this loop end will print it. You have to remember one thing, that if you want to write a program that will execute at least one, then you have to use the do while loop. If your motive to print anything or write a program which just print anything after checking the condition, then you have to use for loop or while loop. Now come here. It is see like a very complicated thing, but believe me, it is not complicated at all. Let me analyze it. It is initialization section of the first do while loop 1.1. Then the cursor will directly come here, this do section. Then the cursor will come the body of this do while loop, first do while loop. Then point 1 will execute initialization. Then the cursor comes this do section, and this task will execute. Increment and decrement section will execute. Then the cursor will come this condition section. After that, the cursor will directly go this do section again. When this condition becomes false, then the cursor will directly come here, the endpoint of this do while section, and this increment and decrement section will execute. After that, the cursor will check the condition of the first do while loop. If the condition is true, then the cursor will directly go this do section. If this condition is false, then the cursor will directly go to the last point of this do while condition. Now let's check an example. Okay. Now see this. At first, we declare loop 1 and loop 2 variable of the type integer. Then we initialize 0 in the loop 1. Then this do section will execute. The cursor will print this loop 1. Let's run this program. Okay. This loop 1, you get loop 1. This loop 1. After that, we initialize loop 2 with 0. The cursor will print loop 2 at first. Then increase the value of loop 2. Then check the condition and come here in this do section. So this section will execute for 3 times, and you will get 3 loop 2. Yes, loop 2, loop 2, loop 2. That means you get loop 2 3 times. After that, when this condition becomes false, then the cursor come here, print loop 2 end, this loop 2 end, and increase the loop 1 value again, and cursor will directly come here and check the condition. That 1 less than 3, condition true, cursor will directly come here, this do section, and then it will print the loop 1, this loop 1, and the cursor will come here, loop 2, 0, and this do section, and it will print loop 2, loop 2, loop 2, that means 3 times loop 2, and after that, when this condition becomes false, then the cursor will come here and print loop 2 end. When this condition becomes false, then the cursor will directly come here and print loop 1 end. Now check another example. Okay, run this. You have to notice one thing, that we put this do while section. We put this do while section under this do section. That means this third do while is dependent on the second do while, and this whole thing is dependent on the first do while section. This do while section. So you will get this output. That means at first the cursor come here and directly take input entry into this do section and print loop 1, this loop 1. Then the cursor will come here, print loop 2 1 time, and then cursor will directly come here and this do section will execute for 3 times. When this condition becomes false, then the cursor will come here and increase the value of loop 2 by 1 and check the condition. If this condition true, then the cursor will directly come here in the do section of the second for loop, and the cursor will print loop 2 again, this loop 2, and then this section will execute for 3 times. Loop 3, loop 3, loop 3, and then cursor will directly come here. When this condition becomes false, this cursor will directly come here and check the condition again. After that, when this condition becomes false, the second while loop condition becomes false, then the cursor will directly come here and print the loop 2 end. That is the loop 2 end. After that, it will increase the loop 1 value and check the condition and directly go here in this section. And this whole things will execute again. That means it will start from loop 1 again, this loop 1 again. When the first do while loop, this condition become false, then the cursor will come here and print loop 1 end, the loop 1 end, this loop 1 end. Now check another thing, that if we change the location of the third while loop, we put the third while loop after the second while loop, that will change the location, then the pattern of the output will change. Now check this output. At first the cursor will print loop 1, then you will get 3 times loop 2, that means the cursor will execute this whole things, loop 2 3 times, then you will get 3 times while, 3 times loop 3, 3 times loop 3, and then the cursor will come here and print the loop 2 end. That means if you change the position of any loop, then the printed pattern will change. When we discuss the pattern printing, then these things will help us a lot. So always remember these things, that if the location of the loop is changed, then the pattern will change. Now check the example again, that is loop 1, loop 2, and loop 1 is equal to 0, do section, this section will execute, and after this condition become false, this whole section will execute. After that, this condition will check. If this is true, then the cursor will directly go here, and if this is false, then the cursor will directly come here and print loop 1 end. Thank you for watching this video. Please visit my YouTube channel and subscribe for other tutorials.